For me to start or? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه ومن دعا بدعوته وجاهد بجهاده وتمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. First of all, I'd like to say my salam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm very grateful for the community in this city, Gothenburg, in Sweden, to organize this event. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Hamidi Abdul Rahman from an organization called PSANG, which is an acronym for Professional Islamic Support and Nurture Group. We are actually a Malaysian-driven organization. I am the chairman, but we are actually registered in the UK. Organization is Malaysian-driven, with some of the directors from Malaysia, and me personally, I live in the UK for over a few decades. All right. First of all, I'd like to introduce a bit of the organization itself. I'm the chairman. We got a few of the directors over here. We got Miss Azian over there. She's the secretary and also the secretary for research and development. We got Ustaz Abdul Hadi, Ustaz Hadi, which is the director for treatment. Where is Ustaz Hadi? Somewhere. And we got Ustaz Halim, is the director for Islamic support. Okay. And that's the three of us again. Okay. So basically, the organization was formed about 6 years ago. There is a very good history of the organization. Why? Over 6 years ago, a few of us actually teamed up to form this organization. I'm from the from a secular background. From the engineering background. A few of us were from the Islamic background, Islamic and Sharia background, and we came across the tradition of treatment in Islam called Ruqyah, which is incantation using Sharia compliant methods. And I was so impressed with it that this sort of treatment, which has been done since the time of the Prophet ﷺ, were forgotten and were not being used. So personally, I saw the effectiveness of the treatment after following one of my colleagues using the treatment, administering the treatment, and with good efficiency, good efficacy. So from there on, it triggers in my mind, why such a good treatment using the Quran is only practiced in the Islamic world and it's not in the mainstream medical treatment. So we thought that, maybe, perhaps, the Quranic therapy, the treatment using Al-Quran, can only be mainstream, that means accepted by the world, if we actually promote it in the West. So it's for that reason we registered an organization called PSANG in the West, trying to promote this Quranic therapy, so that if the West accepts it, then the Muslim world will accept it. This is a paradox. We start something from the Muslim world, never gets out because Muslim feels very inferior. Trying to promote something which is good. The Muslim has got this inferiority complex, but anything that comes from the West, the Muslim thing is good. So, based on this paradox, we think that, might as well, why don't we take this Islamic knowledge, develop it in the West, promote it in the West, get the recognition of the people in the West, and then the whole Muslim world will start to use this methodology. So, what is actually Quranic therapy? Quranic therapy is a therapy which is inspired by the Quranic modeling of the human being. Okay, so in Islam, we have different modeling of the human compared to the West. Okay, let's say in mental health, the West, we got psychology, psychotherapy, which is the treatment for mental health problems. They will model the human being differently. They might model it according to the behavior or the potential. But in Islam, okay, we have a different concept of modeling of the human being. Okay, we have in our body, okay, we have our body itself, the physical body. We have our soul, okay. We have our cult, okay, the heart, okay, which is maybe in Western terms they call it the cognitive faculty, and we have got the akal, which in the Western terminology they can call it the intellect. Okay, the intellect, that means we can decide based on our intellect what is good, what's bad. And the cognitive is what we feel, whether it's good or not, what is in our heart. Okay. So in Islam, we have got the different concept that the vehicle, our body, our jasad, okay, our body is only a vehicle for our existence on this earth. Our ruh, our souls were created a long time ago, before we were even born. All right? And that's why when Allah asked our soul before in times long ago, before we were born, Alastu bi rabbikum, am I not your God? And our soul replied, Qalu bala shahina. Yes, you are. And we testify. Okay. So our soul was created a long time ago, before our body. And our soul joins the body in the womb of a mother. Okay, that's when the baby starts kicking, it joins, and our soul will leave our body upon death and continues on. So the journey in Islam, journey of soul, is from the creation long time ago and eternal until the hereafter. Our body as a human being is only for our existence on this earth. So what does it mean when we have our body as a vehicle? When you say vehicle, you can think of a car. Okay, you can drive a car, you're the driver. Your soul is the driver of your body. Okay, so we can drive a car, and then a carjacker can come in and hijack the car. So you want to turn right, say turn left, and it can dictate you. It can take control of anything. So the same thing with the human body itself. Okay, our body is our vehicle. Our soul is the rightful owner of our body. But we can have some other beings, some other creation of Allah, which can actually hijack our body. So what is this being? This being can be jinn. Okay, so in Islamic Aqidah, Islamic creed, we all believe in jinn. There are numerous verses in the Quran, in Hadith, about the existence of jinn, because the jinn is actually a creation of Allah, all right, which hasn't got a body of its own. So when we know that a jinn can hijack the human body, then you can have problems. That's when, okay, it can affect our health. All right. So this concept is alien from the modern medical practice. In modern psychology, you don't have that concept of some other thing taking over your body and you lose control of it. So in Western psychology, it is actually you yourself to be blamed. Anything wrong is with you, your brain, your mind, your soul, your potential. Okay? But in Islam, we don't deny that. It can be your problem, okay? It can be you not realizing your own potential, but it can also be because of something else, which actually hijacks your body. You want to do something, but at the end you did something else. You think this is right, but somehow or other you did something which is wrong. You know that this is my personality, I'm a loving person, I respect my parents, but somehow or other you shouted, you abused your parents, and something that you can't explain. Why? Why am I doing this? Why is my personality like this? I can't explain it. Okay. When we realize that our personality doesn't match what we think we are, then there might be a problem of something hijacking our thoughts. That's why when this happens, okay, then we have to do some sort of screening, checking to see if there's anything wrong with us. Are we the true person? Is it us alone, our soul in our body, or is there something else in our body which hijacks our thought, which make us think differently, which make us act differently? So, how do we test that? In modern psychology, there's no easy way, there's no quick way. It can take, years even to diagnose what the problem is. But in Islam, we have the Al-Quran actually to detect if there is a parasite called jinn inside our body. All right? So it's a very easy, very effective diagnostic tool that we can use to detect if there's any problem. Is there any parasite called jinn inside our body? So because the nature of the creation of the jinn is that they're very sensitive to Al-Quran, the Quran. The jinn are very sensitive. When we read certain verses of the Quran, they can react to that, unlike human. Okay, the nature of the creation of jinn is different from the nature of the creation of human. So, because the jinn, if they enter the human body, they have been transgressing Allah's rule, Allah's command, and they will get an effect on that. So, if you read the Quran with a person who has got a problem with a jinn problem inside the body, then the person will have a negative reaction. So what do you mean by negative reaction? A negative reaction can be many things. Person can start to collapse. Person can start to vomit, or cry, or even laugh, without the person being able to control himself or herself. So why did that happen? Why would this thing happen? It's because the jinn is reacting to the Quran, and that effect is being translated, is being used, but translated by the actions, emotions of our body. So you might think it's the same person. We look, it's the same person, but the reaction is different. And when we have this negative reaction, okay, then we know that there is some concern. It's not a confirmation that there is a jinn inside the body, but it is a major concern that you have to do something to check, to verify if there is anything in there. Okay, so it's a very good diagnostic thing, a diagnostic tool to check if there is any problem within ourselves, if there is any other being beside our soul in our body. All right. So this is a good thing, okay, because if we follow the medical model, okay, from the modern medicine, they will try to test you for many things first. You got a problem with your health, they operate you, come back again, do another thing, another test, and after everything exhausted, I do not know the answer. It's inconclusive. And then you go on to test using Quranic. Oh, there is a problem here. Okay. So why not? Okay, before we let our body being operated by the surgeons, we test ourselves if there's no problem. So, because it's a non-intrusive diagnostic tool. You don't have to cut with any knife. Okay, you don't have to operate with, you don't have to operate your body, okay, to check what's wrong. Okay, so if you know that there is a problem with jinn early in the stage of our health problems, then we can address the problem easily. Then we can prevent our body from being dissected by the surgeons. Why is jinn such a problem to our human body? Why? It's because it can cause diseases. And there are a lot of the evidences in the Quran and Hadith that points out that the jinn can actually cause disease to human body. Is it difficult to understand that? Even in modern medicine, we can actually explain that. Okay, the jinn can enter the human body, and the jinn is a living organism. Okay, when you say that it's a living organism, then it will have to eat something, will have to secrete something. Okay, when it eats something, what does it eat? It's not part of your blood or flesh or your brain cells or whatever. And when it secretes, where does the secretion goes? Will affect what the West call the homeostasis. Homeostasis, that means the balance of your body. So this is what you call the chemical imbalance. All the toxins being produced by the jinn can actually cause chemical imbalance in your body. And this is where modern medicine, with all the drugs, they try to repair that imbalance, by blocking or activating the neuroreceptors in the brain, so that, you get the balance back. Okay, but it's just a repair methodology. It doesn't actually solve the underlying problem. Okay, if the gene is not removed, then yes, the drugs will have an effect, but the gene will produce more toxins, and you will get the problem again, because you are not addressing the underlying issue there. Whereas in Islamic medical treatment, using Quranic therapy, we can actually remove, with the permission of Allah, the jinn factor. And once you remove the jinn factor, you are removing the underlying problem, and then the modern medicines, the drugs, to repair the imbalance will work more effectively. Okay, so this is the difference. Okay, so when we say about Islamic medical treatment, we are not actually denying that some modern medical treatment is effective. It is effective, but to a certain limit. It is effective if there is no gene-related problem, but if you have a gene-related problem, then probably the combination of both will give a higher efficiency in the treatment. So the treatment, is also using the Quran as well, as the core methodology. In Arabic, people might refer to the word ruqya. Ruqya literally means incantation. Okay, so you can have ruqya shar'iyya, which is Islamic compliant or Sharia compliant incantation, or maybe ruqya shirqiyya, shirk, ruqya with shirk. Okay, so in Islam, our Prophet ﷺ has given the boundary. If anything which is not shirk, then it's allowable. So you can do the ruqya, the incantation, ruqya using Quranic verses, salawat, azan, whatever, as long as there's no shirk element. And then the boundary is shirk. Okay, so because in medical treatment, not everything is actually available in text form, in written form. Not everything has been recorded. Our Prophet ﷺ said that Allah has sent a disease with also a remedy with it. Okay, so every disease has got a remedy, but we do not know where the remedy is. Okay, and this is why during the Islamic Renaissance or the golden age of Islam, the Muslims at that time wanted to know what's the remedy of for all the diseases. They know that Allah has sent diseases and Allah has also sent some remedy, but it's not written anywhere. So that started what we call the translation movement. The Muslims of that time translated textbooks from Hindi, literatures from Hindi to Arabic, from Chinese to Arabic, from Greek to Arabic, and even they tried to translate hieroglyphics, the ancient Egyptian scriptures, to check if there is anything about medicine, about treatment. Okay, it might not be known in the Muslim land, it might be available, let's say in China, whatever, or India, or whatever, which were non-Muslim land at that time. And the good effect of this translation movement is that it brought knowledge from different parts of the world, and with this knowledge, they did not just gain in terms of the medical aspect. It also brought new, philosophers, new scholars in other aspects. So that's why, at that time, we get a lot of, great Muslims who lead the world. Okay, Ibn Sina, Ibn Rushd, Ibn Khaldun, and so on, because of the knowledge that were gained at that time. Okay, so knowledge is not just what we have. Okay, because there's a lot of knowledge. The knowledge of Allah is vast. Whatever knowledge that we have in this world is just a drop in the ocean. Where's the second drop that we have not discovered? Don't talk about a bucket from the ocean, okay? So this is where I think people in the West who are exposed to other educational background, other knowledge, other disciplines, okay, can actually contribute towards enhancing the Islamic medical treatment and make Islamic medical treatment a mainstream discipline, respected by the West as well. There's nothing great about the West, what they have done, okay? If we talk about mental health, Sigmund Freud was a person who introduced psychotherapy. All right? He introduced psychotherapy. And that was a revolution. Okay? Just by talking, you can make a person better. Okay? But a lot of his theories have been disputed as time goes by. Some were not effective, some were contested. And you get then different disciplines. People think, oh, Freud is not right in this. He's talking too much about, the sex problem, okay? Because Freud has got some theories which, to some female, they think is sexist as well. All right, Oedipus complex, and they got like penis envy sort of thing, okay, which were rejected by even his students. Okay, whereas we Muslims, okay, we have actually the Quran, the Islamic modeling, which we can promote, all right, to develop a new modeling of the human being. And with this new modeling of the human being, based on the Quranic understanding, based on Islamic understanding, we can have a more effective form of therapy, which can be proven to have effectiveness. So throughout our work over the past 5 years with a lot of mental health clients, we've found out that, okay, by combining the Islamic therapy with a bit of the Western understanding of how the mind works, we find that there's a very, very, very great improvement of the clients. Okay, So don't reject whatever knowledge is there, because some of them has scientifically proven that it has got effectiveness, and it is not actually against Islam. Okay, so what we need to understand is that we as Muslims, okay, we need to explore a lot more than what has been taught to us. There need to be a further research and understanding of how we can improve therapy through the Quran. We know that it's effective. It's a very good, effective tool for diagnosis. Also, good tool for actually to treat somebody. In the time of the Prophet ﷺ, okay, there was the companions of the Prophet. At one point, they went to a leader. The leader of a tribe were bitten by a snake, or some say a scorpion. Okay, and the companions were just reciting some verses of the Quran, and the chief of the tribe was cured. Okay, if in modern medicine, then how do you explain poison can be cured by just a recitation of the Quran? Okay, so what it shows is that the Quran itself, okay, is a remedy for not just gene-related problems but also other ailments. So Allah has sent the Quran as a remedy for illnesses. وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Okay, so we have the Quran as the mu'jizat, the miracle. Okay, and some of the effects of the Quran we can't actually explain using our mind. It's impossible. How can you explain miracle? A miracle comes from Allah. We know Quran is miracle. It's not something just to be read. Okay, a miracle can't be explained because it comes from Allah. Just like the case of when you recite during the time of the companion prophet, you recite on somebody who was bitten by a snake and he recovered. Doesn't make sense from the Western point of view, but it did happen. Okay, so we must have that yaqeen, that trust that the Quran has got the healing element in there, therapeutic element in that. Okay. So there are lots of things that we need to look at. Okay, what Islam has provided, and we need to expand all those. We didn't just take it for granted and just literally, but there must be. It is just a pointer to further research, to further experiment, so that we can come out, the Muslim can come out as the best in the world of medicine. Why is it important? Why should Muslims be excelling themselves in medicine? Because medicine, health problem, is a very neutral problem. It's a very neutral issue. After 9/11, okay, the non-Muslims, the world look as Muslim as terrorists. Negative effect, negative image of the Muslims by the media. Okay, but if we use medicine, let's say Quranic therapy, to promote Islam, then the non-Muslims, if they're ill, they might want to try our therapy. They might want to try the Islamic therapy. And if they find effectiveness of that, then we'll say, yes, there's something good in Islam. I've tried all the Hindu, I've tried modern medicine, I've tried Chinese, whatever, it didn't work. And when I try Islamic therapy, Quranic therapy, and I get healthy. So the prejudice towards Muslim will be removed. And that's how we can actually also promote Islam in a very subtle way. to the non-Muslims. And we in the West, I think, has got the advantage. There's a lot of Muslims around us. We're just a minority. If you can prove to them that Islam or Islamic medicine is not just for the Muslims, it's also for the non-Muslims, then a lot will come to us. If you can prove that Quranic therapy is effective, let's say for mental health problems, regardless of whether you are Muslim or non-Muslims, then we'll get a lot of non-Muslims coming in. Because mental health problems is one of the major issues in health. Okay, in the UK, it said that 1 in 5 persons experience mental health problems in their lifetime. That's a very high percentage. It's not my figure. Okay, 1 in 5 experience mental health problem, depression or anxiety disorder, and such as. Okay, so what you're saying is that, okay, there's a 20% population out there, okay, who might want to try Islamic therapy, want to try Islamic solutions to mental health problems. And you don't even have to preach about Islam. If that is effective, it will trigger in the mind. They might not be Muslims after the therapy. The minimum is that they will not be degrading the Muslims, first of all, and maybe in the future they might turn to be Muslims. So Islam, to spread Islam in the West, doesn't have to be in a very violent way. It can be in a very subtle way by giving the benefit of Islam to both the Muslim and non-Muslims, and then you will see that Islam will be accepted in the West already. Okay. So Islam is not always spread by sword. Okay, it's not always being spread by conflict, by war. If you look at the region where we came from, Southeast Asia, okay, Islam was spread in a very subtle manner using hikmah. There was not a single war or conflict, blood being spilled when Islam was spread in Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Indonesia, and that's one of the region where you have a very high population of Muslims as well, apart from the Arab world. Okay, so if, let's say, the scholars in the past has managed to spread Islam, let's say in Southeast Asia, using hikmah, then we in the West can also spread Islam using hikmah, using Islamic medical treatment or Quranic therapy. And that is hikmah. Okay. But before we can do that, obviously we need to understand what it is all about. We need to do more research. We need to prove that it is better than what's available by the West. And this is something which is not impossible. Okay. From our experience, okay, before we started this organization 6 years ago, people, even the Muslims, were scared to say that I've got a jinn problem. They know, but if they want to say that I've got a jinn problem, they might think that people will laugh at them. Even now, a lot of Muslims do not want to tell their doctor that I've got jinn problem. Okay, but 5 years, 6 years later on, everybody now is talking about jinn-related problems. Can you check me? It's no longer a dirty word. People are brave enough to say, maybe I've got jinn problem, or I have a jinn problem, some of them will say. I've tried all these antidepressants, I've tried these antipsychotics, whatever, but I think my problem is jinn-related. So people now are more educated, the knowledge has come to them, they are brave enough to say that, the Muslims, to say that there's a possibility that I might have been suffering from jinn-related problems, or my relatives, my friends have got that problem. So if we can transform the thinking of the Muslims within the 5 years, obviously we can also do the same thing to the non-Muslim. The National Health Service, the non-Muslims, at the moment, they don't want to talk about jinn problem, but they are recognizing, that Muslims are now looking at alternative therapy for jinn-related problems. So they know that the Muslims are looking at alternative. But there is a big question mark, what sort of alternative therapy? Is it something which is dangerous? Or is it something which is which will give them benefit? Because it's something which is not mainstream at the moment. A lot of people provide, let's say, ruqyah, do it privately, and some of them are not transparent. And some of them causes problems as well, which we have to admit, because they're not transparent. If you are transparent, people know who you are, people know what techniques you are. If they want to investigate you, you have the records. You can prove, you can defend yourself, then there should be no problem. But the concern of, let's say, the government is that some might use techniques which are dangerous, which might make the person get worse. All right, even using the name of ruqyah, whatever. So when we formed Pisang, we had many objectives, actually 8 of them. And one of the objectives is actually, apart from promoting Islamic medical treatment, is to make it mainstream. So we have actually been pioneering the effort in Malaysia itself, and Alhamdulillah, I think 2 years ago, the Malaysian government, when they table out the complementary CTM and complementary traditional medicine act, they have included ruqyah, Islamic medical treatment, as part of the complementary medical treatment. That can be, that's accepted by the Ministry of Health. So this is a very big step forward. So it's becoming mainstream, at least in Malaysia. So still a lot of work to do. When you say mainstream that means the doctors, they can refer. This is maybe a gene-related problem. They can refer to recognized practitioners. So we also have to do that. We also have to fight that in the West, trying to make it mainstream, so that under any National Health Service, if the doctors think that this might be something related to jinn, if they can accept that in the future, then they can refer it to recognized practitioners. So it's a lot of work to do. Everything, the Muslims have been doing things, but not in a very organized way. They've been doing things according to their own rules. They do not want to, a lot of Muslims will feel, they know best if they work on their own. But we in a civil society, we have organizations, we have laws. There are certain things that you have to think about, like client safety and so on. So there must be rules and regulations where practitioners can or should work under. So Malaysia, we have done some work on that, and it's a promising. What it means is that with the act, everybody who practices ruqyah, Islamic medical treatment, must register, must have an organization, must abide to the guidelines set up by the Ministry of Health. So it becomes transparent. So you can actually kick out the dodgy ones, those who do not comply, those who do not register. They're not allowed okay, to practice, they can be, sued and fined. They can be fined. Okay, so it make it more mainstream, and this is something which we can do in the West as well. Okay, in the Muslim country, it's easy because you're working with some framework, Islamic framework there as well in Muslim countries. But in the West, there's a lot of obstacles which you have to overcome. Okay. So when you have a therapy which is good, practitioners which comply with rules and regulations, then obviously it will become mainstream. If the therapy is good, it will expand. Okay, let's think of one scenario that we have in Muslim history. Okay, Islamic banking. 30 years ago, we talked about banking without interest. There was a lot of opposition. A lot of people say, how can you have a bank which hasn't got any interest? How do you pay? All sorts of questions. Okay, the Muslims, it was questioned by the Muslims 30 years ago. The Muslims were questioning those who promote Islamic banking, saying that no, you can't have Islamic banking. If you don't charge interest, how can you pay the staff and so on? How do you pay the overhead? Okay, but then Islamic scholars developed a lot of mechanism so that Islamic banking can work. And 30 years on, Islamic banking becomes mainstream. It doesn't replace conventional banking, but at least it's an alternative, another system which is parallel. Okay, so the same thing can happen to Islamic medical treatment. Now we say we want to make it mainstream. Will it happen? There's a lot of questions. A lot of practitioners might not want to comply with rules and regulations by the authority. But it's something which is possible. If, let's say, Islamic medical treatment proves to be of a higher efficiency than modern medical treatment, then it will pick up, especially in private practice under health insurance. Insurers will probably say, okay, you got problem, you can go to Islamic medical treatment. It costs the insurers less money. Because a lot of the Islamic therapy uses Quran and some basic materials like water. You don't have the expensive overhead, expensive drugs needed. Okay, so it will be very encouraging situation for, let's say, insurers, health insurers, to say that don't go to the private hospital, don't get operated, go try this first, and they just pay less. Okay, so the private industry, private medical insurance company will promote that Islamic medical treatment. Okay, because it makes sense for them economically. There's a business case for them to promote it. They don't want to pay, modern medicine, private hospitals. Why pay £20,000, let's say, when you can just pay £200? No, just figure, okay? Why pay a large amount when the Islamic treatment costs them less? Okay, but in order to get to that stage, we have to prove ourselves that it is working, it's more effective, it costs less. With that business modeling, inshallah, okay, Islamic medical treatment will become mainstream. We're not talking about 5 years, we're not talking 10 years, it might take about 30 years before it become mainstream. Just like Islamic banking became mainstream after 30 years from the conception. And people discussing, it took 30 years. It didn't take 5 years. It took 30 years. And even you see conventional banking will have Islamic counter. They want to produce, they want to have Islamic products. Okay? Conventional banking will have Islamic products. It's not impossible for private hospitals to have an Islamic wing, Islamic medical treatment. Yes, we do all this operation for cancer, for everything else, but there's a section there for Islamic medical treatment, Quranic therapy, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so that I think will trigger the expansion of Quranic therapy. We have the knowledge, we can expand the knowledge, and is in knowledge of the Muslim by the Muslims, but for everybody. Okay, that's what we need to do. Okay, I'll end my talk this. I'd like to open up for any question and answer. I think that you might want to ask more, so I'll just end this short talk with أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم.